Warning, this podcast contains microwaved burritos. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the As Seen on TV podcast for Time After Time, Season 1, Episode 3, Out of Time. I'm your host, Dom. With me, we have Nikki and Kim. How's it going?
Before we get into the beef and cheese of this episode,
Spicy beef and cheese.
I was actually expecting him to take the first bite of that burrito and be like, oh, ha, ha, and then the next one go, oh god, it's cold, because that's how microwave food works, guys.
It is. It is. And I think it was just last week where I was like, I feel like we didn't get enough of them, like, learning technology, you know, and all this, and because they get thrown into it, and he's, like, out there in the world in clubs, and, like, it's like he seemed like he was already accustomed to everything by the time, like, we ran into him.
Yeah, it seemed like he quickly acclimated to the modern century, whereas in this episode, we see him struggling with a microwave, which we should have seen a little bit of the last two episodes.
Yeah,
but he knows how to record video on a phone.
That too.
Right? Yeah.
I'm
I don't
like,
know.
Is this toaster a microwave? But I know how to work a phone.
Right. What? Yeah. It's a little inconsistent there, and that's why I said, like, because we saw him using the phone and everything. We didn't see him struggle with the phone last two episodes at all.
No.
Like, nothing. You know, and here we watch him struggle with the microwave, which was really entertaining. I'm not criticizing the struggle with the microwave. I'm criticizing the fact that we didn't see struggle with anything else up to this point. But the biggest question that I have for you guys is, who microwaves with the plastic on? Like, doesn't it tell you to remove from the plastic?
It actually depends on the product, because I know for burritos, some actually say that the plastic actually helps keep the heat inside, and it, like, the convection kind of thing. It makes it. There's science involved, and I don't know the science.
I always assumed the plastic would, like, melt to the burrito.
No, the plastic's not meant to. It's made differently, so it doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I always take it out. I always, like, put it on a plate.
Yeah, me too. I always put it on a plate as well. I don't.
I could not.
But I mean, I don't eat microwave burritos. I barely eat microwave food at all. It's usually just leftovers from the night before, which was actually cooked on the oven.
Yeah. But the whole scene, it was still really entertaining. And then you had Bella's roommate barge in, right? And barge in, it's his house, but, you know, he's just like, who are you? And he's like, I'm John.
The whole time I was thinking, I'm like, how the hell did he get all his fancy clothes and all this stuff?
Yeah, I know.
Like, that's the whole first thought. I was like, what is going on here? How did he get all this crap? And then I'm like, oh, he broke into someone's house. Okay.
It's not that he broke in. The girl that he went to the club with last episode, right?
Yeah,
the one he's having
the one
drinks
that was
at
telling
the
him
club.
that he could change, kind of thing.
Oh, is that who
guy.
he was with? Okay.
That was Bella. That's the girl he went home with. And then he killed her. And then he goes and has breakfast, and he takes the nice hot steamy shower, and he gets all these suits, and he's trying these clothes on, and that's who shows up, the guy who owns the suits and everything. He's like, you wearing my suit? You know, so he's like, hey, Bella's in bed still, you know, whatever. And then the roommate gets all mad, and he goes in, Bella, you know, whatever. He starts yelling for her, goes into the room, finds out she's dead. She's been murdered, blood all over the place. And then John comes in and kills him. So, I mean, what a way to start the episode. It was absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm pleasantly surprised in where this is going, to be honest. Like, I was worried. Like, honestly was worried once that we got the last couple episodes, and I was like, where are they going to go with this? And now it's going off in, like, all different weird directions, and I'm like, who are these people? What is going on?
Everyone knows about these guys. We were only on episode 3, but I feel like the whole Jack the Ripper being like, here's your ultimatum and here's your time frame. I feel like that's, like, been used over and over and over again. I feel like I'm like 10 episodes in and I'm done with it already. But, you know, they threw a twist at us, which was very, very nice.
The whole thing with the time machine, and John's like, you know, I want you to deliver the time machine. I want you to travel, whatever. Bring it to me. You have to be within 5 minutes. I'm like, Are you kidding? It has to be within 5 minutes. You own a time machine. You can get down to the second. You know, that's the one thing in time travel shows or movies, anything, when you're playing with something that you literally have infinite time. You have the ability to pinpoint time. Then they start saying, "Oh, guys, we're running out of time." No, you're not. You're not at all. You're never out of time in something like this. Like they're worried that they're not going to fix the time machine, right? And I get this because somebody's still going to die and all that. But if you don't fix the time machine for a year, you could still travel back in time to the point that he wanted and prevent all of that from happening. You know, like that's the stuff that really bothers me with time travel. Because you, like I said, you literally have all the time in the world. So
I think it's more or less they don't want to like break the time.
yeah, I know they established that you can't keep traveling and ripping holes through the space time continuum, and
Yeah.
they established that last episode. But regardless, if you're gonna be using the time travel to travel to that point anyway, it doesn't matter when you use it. You know, that's my only gripe with it. But the time machine is in fact broken at the start of the episode, and we see HG attempting to fix the machine. They bring in one of Vanessa's people, Martin Scott, who's helping HG get acclimated with modern technology. And in doing so, they overload the machine and damage what is the heart and soul of the time machine, the Alexandrite gemstone.
Which
Uh,
isn't, I mean, they're making it seem I thought Alexandrite was actually really common nowadays. They're making it seem like it's super duper rare. I know that certain cut, that quality might be, but I think like the stone itself.
yeah, I'm not a geo or gemologist, so I'm not sure,
Let's go
but
look it up.
yeah, but the rarity of that cut, I think, um, is still the difficult part, and what it would take to synthesize even, because I'm pretty sure you can beef up the quality of other ones through time and weathering processes, and putting them in those rolling machines. I think you can do stuff like that to increase the quality of the gem, but like once again, it takes time. Something that apparently we don't have a lot of in this show.
I had a little, like, me and my sister, we had a tumbler that's
Yeah,
about this
tumbler.
big, and we used to put just regular rocks in there, and it would make regular rocks look awesome. So, yeah.
Yep. Yep. But they decide that Jane may know someone who could assist them locate one, and it is Jane's old fling, Paul. Apparently, is really into Coldplay, and couldn't stop talking about Coldplay. Mentioned Coldplay
I
at
think
least 3 or 4 times.
I think that's the thing he was banking on because it seems like it was their first date that
Yeah.
they went on. So, I mean, yeah, it's like, yeah, we had a good time at Coldplay, and then you just, trying to reminisce the good times you
Who
might get
who's
back in the
who's
set.
Coldplay? Oh yeah, he's British. He doesn't know. But Coldplay's British. Like what?
Yeah, as soon as that came out of her mouth, I was like, no,
She didn't think. She
no,
just was trying to
no,
like.
exactly.
You have HG like all awkwardly. Shall we continue?
Like, can you stop trying to flirt? Thanks.
Well, he even mentioned, he goes, "Are you two an item? I'll stop trying to flirt." And HG's like, "Yeah, as if." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, HG, just speak your mind. Sounds a lot like me." You know?
He had something else on his mind. He needed to fix his baby, which also like you were saying like there is no time constraint, but for him it felt like there was because
Yeah.
of the way John was, and
Well, yeah, he's still gonna kill. John's gonna kill, and HG's got to live with that every time, every
Mm.
moment that he's trying to fix the time machine. That's a distraction to him. But if he can go back in time and prevent them from dying by giving him the machine, then it kind of negates all that. But maybe I'm just so used to time travel stuff that I think more fourth dimensionally than, you know,
maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, you think about just like the act of time traveling rather than the people doing the time traveling.
Yeah, I guess. But like they spent a lot of time this episode mentioning, oh, so and so, it must be from their past, my future. So like he understands the concept of fourth dimensional time travel, but
Hmm.
he's not able to think it through problem solving wise.
He's not able to disconnect from the fact that, because of his actions, other things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Even though, yet, like you said, he can ultimately fix them by going back in time with his
Yeah.
time machine after he fixes it.
Yeah. Did you find anything on the Alexandrite
I'm
gemstone?
working on it right now.
Still working on it. And then we find out that Vanessa ends up, she's going to cover the cost of the gemstone.
It's the
From
And the
color.
damages.
It's a very rare color.
Okay, so the purple.
the
It's
like
yeah.
amethyst, yeah.
Hold on,
Gotcha.
I'm getting it. Loading. It's loading.
Yeah.
It's a little
Um,
gem, and it's like.
and then we have Vanessa, who is dealing with issues with her boyfriend Griffin, um, about HG. Like he sees she's very distracted. He sets up an interview that she offered to do. He didn't even like suggest it to her. She suggested it to him.
So is
Um,
he running for like a seat in Senate or something? Is that what's going on, like politics
seems
wise?
it seems like it. He's running for something
Yeah.
political.
It looks like. Didn't he say senator? I think it's
Senator.
senator.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And we have the big explosion from them trying to fix the time machine and them overloading it and breaking the gem in the first place. And she runs out of the interview. And then when he confronts her about it later, she kind of explains it. She's like, look, this guy's H.G. Wells. And he starts like laughing about it. He's like, yeah, oh, you're serious? Well, he's a fraud. Um, He goes off on this whole spiel. So later on, she decides to show him that actions speak louder than words, which was a line she used in her interview,
Hmm.
and brings and shows him the time machine. In action, nonetheless. Not just like, here's the time machine. Shows it disappearing, reappearing, like the whole aspect of it
Hmm.
traveling in the first place. And then later on in the episode, we see he makes a call and says that he has access to the time machine. So I think it was Nikki who's like, yeah, Griffin, there's something up with him. So
It was
you were
just
correct.
it was just the way he was looking at Wells when, he was trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm not HG, I'm just,
Yeah.
whatever names and jazz. It's like Griffin's looking at him like, yeah, okay. And then there's that phone call that he shared with whoever was on the other end of that phone. He's like, yep, I got access to the freaking time machine. It's time to get rid of Wells. It's like, excuse me, what?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Sally even
Like
said in
everybody knows
chat.
everything.
Yeah, Sally and Chad even said I knew he was up to something. You know, I just thought he
Basically,
was
now I
oblivious.
trust nobody.
Yeah, yeah.
The show officially don't trust nobody.
Oh,
Yeah, like,
exactly.
there is, I can't remember what show it was I was watching, and I kept referencing Battlestar Galactica and saying everybody's a Cylon because literally everyone in that show is a Cylon, so you can't trust anyone.
I'm pretty sure
This
it
is
was
this
Westworld
is
you were talking about.
yes, Westworld. There we go.
So
Yes,
And then the show all
but
about politics. You can't.
exactly.
Everybody politics lies.
Yeah.
You can't trust nobody.
well, because like
Yeah.
the biggest example of this is when John meets Brooke, right? He meets Brooke in a marketplace, just like walking around whatever in the middle of New York somewhere, and it looks like a very accidental run-in. It's like, oh, we bumped into each other. Oh, my carpal tunnel, this, that. We find out that she's a neuroanthropologist, and they start having like a conversation where they're very open about their jobs and their feelings with the jobs and all kinds of stuff. Very intellectual kind of discussion that they're having of how the jobs make them feel, what they can and can't do within them, what they mean, that whole kind of thing. And then we cut away to like her sleeping with him and then asking him to spend the night. He goes off to make some drinks and he starts making the phone call recording. He's recording the video to send to HG about how he plans to kill her. And then when she comes in, he's playing music, all this stuff, and actually like plans to kill her on video and send it to HG. But she beats him to the punch, right? And out of
Hmm.
nowhere, she pulls out a syringe injects him with something, don't know exactly what, but knocked him out, sent him off to sleepy time. And we cut off again to the end of the episode when he's tied to like a dentist chair of some sort, you know.
Yeah.
But a couple of things go through my head during this whole thing. One, honestly, I was thinking something strange from the moment she showed up. Now, this was just, I know it seemed.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
okay. So when she showed up anyway, and she's talking about her being, the whole mental psychologist, they have their own problems. They have their own issues. And I was really wondering, I'm like, I wonder if and then when she stuck in the syringe, I was thinking she was a serial killer.
Exactly. I thought she was too. Like, okay, so the predator becomes the prey. All right.
Yeah,
this is cool. Yeah.
When a killer kills a killer and reality is disrupted, the victim's not a victim and the hunter is the hunted. It's a lyric of one of my favorite songs. But yeah, it's insane. It's a song, just for the record. It's called Victim by Apathy and Holly Brooke, who is better known as Skylar Grey now. But yeah. She injects him with that, and then she's like, someone has been waiting a long time for you. I know you're Jack the Ripper, whatever. And it's just like, excuse me? Like, does anybody on this show actually not know who they are and not have, like, a secret agenda? It's like, what is going on right now? Like, if anything, Brooke was the one, that I thought was innocent in all of this. After we had the reveal of, what's his name? Griffin. Right? Mm-hmm. And then after we find out a little bit more about the guy from last episode, Chad, which we'll get into in a minute, it's just like with Brooke, I thought she was just like, a victim. Like, I did not... She's the one that fooled me. She is.
You're the only one that thought...
because we just had 2 huge reveals previously, right? So, was not expecting a third one out of her. And that's something I'm really liking about this show right now, is... They let down your sense of security with, oh, well, we've already did 2 big reveals. There can't possibly be another one,
I mean, like when I mentioned at the very beginning of when we started talking for this episode, I was like, the whole, John gives an ultimatum and says, I need the time machine by this time or I kill again. Like, that's something that I was like, the show's getting way too predictable for me. And then all of this stuff happens and I'm like, okay. So I'm not going to get mad yet.
Yet.
Yeah, the other thing was Brian and Chad saying, I knew something was going to happen the moment they showed that stone. And I agree. But I was not expecting it to happen this episode. I was expecting it, a little down the line. They were establishing, oh, this is the heart and soul of the machine. Of course something's going to go wrong with it when you make a statement like that,
Okay, so I got the whole details on the gem thing. So it's emerald by day, ruby by night. Basically, it's a color-changing gemstone.
Great.
It's originally discovered in Russia in 1830. It's now found in Sri Lanka, East Africa, and Brazil, but it is still a fine material that is exceptionally rare and valuable.
Interesting.
Okay. Maybe all the Alexandrite that I've seen is just synthesized fake crap.
Probably.
Probably. I mean, I wouldn't put it past a lot of the jewelers that I've seen around here anyways.
Yep. Well, it might even be that specific color of Alexandria.
Yeah, because he was searching for a certain stone of a certain quality, of a certain number, grade, and all that jazz.
Yep. But we see the strange man from last episode, who we find out his name's Chad. He's following John. And I'm sitting there, as he's chasing John, I go, this didn't work out very well when you were tailing HG. How do you think you're going to get one over on John, who's more street smart than HG? And sure enough, he gets ditched right away. And that's when John ends up running into Brooke. But then we get kind of like a surprise interaction with Chad. We see him have a visit with his mother. Right? His mother's really old, sick. She's maybe sick. I don't know. She's on a respirator.
It just seems that she's really old and she's a little bit senile. She needs some machine help to keep going. She seemed really old.
Yeah. But then he mentions that...
Sorry, I saw the the price of a like a .38 carat freaking
Alexandrite.
yeah,
And
how much?
$2,400 just for like a
a
like
little
nothing.
teeny, and they got a stone that was like quarter sized.
Yeah, Vanessa's rich. We've established that she's rich. Um, so anyway, like he tells his mother that H.G. Wells is here, and the time machine, and it's all it's happening. And she goes, and Jack the Ripper, and he's like, yeah. So she goes, you have to stop them from going back. You have to stop this from happening. And I'm like, okay, this is clearly something from H.G.'s future. And this is another case of H.G.'s future, someone else's past. So we're dealing with a lot of that. So we know at some point we're going back to the past. And if you saw the previews for next week, we're going to the 1980s next week. So hopefully we get some answers about Vanessa and some of these other characters as well.
I can't wait to see how they try and pull off the modern, like the technology difference from the 80s to now. Because in the 80s, I mean, if you were lucky, you had one of those big block cell phones.
Yeah. Yeah, so
You
it's
still,
gonna
like,
be interesting. I don't know if John's gonna end up over there, whatever the case, but we know HG travels. That's really about it.
okay.
But the big thing here is they made a big deal about not telling Sam that Chad was there, and I'm like, who the hell is Sam? Like, that's what I want to know. I want to know who's Sam. Sam's gonna be important.
Maybe he's the illegitimate son of the Ripper.
That'd be interesting. Because
Sorry if it's shit went off.
something's got to be something.
Yeah.
They want something stopped. They want to end it before it happens. I don't know. Maybe if that is the case, if they let Sam know that they're there and they know that they're planning on killing him, then Sam wouldn't exist, and that could be possible.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's interesting. Like maybe Sam has also got those psycho tendencies, and so he's doing bad things too. So trying to stop that.
maybe. But and then you see Chad has like this murder board wall thing that it doesn't have any murdered people on it. It just has HG and John all over the board, photographs of them from when they first arrived in like Times Square and stuff like that, outside the club, in Central Park. There's pictures of them all over that board, and he just loads a gun and he walks out. He ends up going to the geologist's or the gemologist's place and plans on killing HG right then and there. Right, so we get this pretty cool library chase scene, that between HG, Chad, and all that. I actually was kind of entertained by that. Usually I hate scenes like that.
It reminded me of Scooby-Doo when they go in the doors and they just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of, I felt like there had to be some, cartoony freaking background
It
sound
almost-
going.
It almost reminded me of Scream 2 when they enter like the recording studio movie theater building and they're like running around
I
and the
remember what you're
killer,
talking about. Okay, it took
and
me a
they're
second,
like
yeah.
chasing through all different doors and they're knocking shelves over to get the door. It kind of reminded me of that scene a little bit. I don't know. I really like that in Scream as well, so that's probably why. But I don't know. I really, really like this one. And then Doug Vanessa's security detail out of nowhere just pops in and shoots him. Does not look like a fatal wound.
I think they just knocked him out so they could, interrogate him later, see who he is.
Yeah. And apparently Paul, according to Vanessa, agrees to keep quiet, and Jane backs it up, saying, yeah, we could trust him. So
She probably paid him a lot of money.
I'm sure she did.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to know more about Chad. I'm probably more invested in Chad's story than I am Brooke's at this point, even though Brooke was the bigger reveal. The whole thing with Chad and his mother just really, really intrigues me. I don't know
Definitely a
what
lot of
it is.
weird, like, side things that are going on that's, like, it's slightly confusing because it's all very vague. Extremely vague.
Well,
It's like,
we're getting it.
Mysterious.
The thing we have to keep in mind is we're getting this according to HG and John's timeline, as opposed to these
the other
characters'
people's
timeline.
timeline.
We're following HG and John, and we're getting it out of order because they're getting it out of order.
There's
So
gonna be a lot of where you have to remember things that happened
yes,
in the episodes to come.
yes, there's going to be a lot of that. Can already tell, and I love shows like that make you think. And this whole kind of episode started playing with the idea of time travel, which we kind of talked about a little bit last week, where HG kind of mentions the observation aspect versus fate and destiny. And I don't know. Like, I don't know where this is going with time travel. I established last week my favorite form of time travel is whatever happened and cannot be changed in any way, shape, or form. And that makes time travel a lot easier to accept. That, say, so and so is going to be murdered in the future. So you travel to the future, or your actions of wherever you travel, maybe even in the present. Say you went to the future, you saw somebody murdered. So when you come back to the past, everything you do is to try to stop that murder from happening, but everything you're doing is only causing that murder to play out anyway. So you can't actually change it because time's already happened that way. That's how I like time travel. That's my favorite form of it. And with this, we've already kind of established things can be changed because I think at least maybe because Jane is supposed to die in 3 days, according to when they traveled. So
Well, they are also already saved the one girl that he was supposed to kill
Yeah.
that night.
Yeah. Unless no, it was the picture. We saw the picture of the girl. Yeah. So we've kind of already established in this that whatever happened did not happen. Whatever happened can be changed. But we also don't know, because if you think about it, technically, this has already happened. Right? Everything we're seeing has already happened, kind of. Because if HG's future is their past, they've already experienced it. So for them, all of this has actually already happened. Like the 1980s stuff, like the stuff we're going to see next week, has already happened for Vanessa. So even though it hasn't happened for HG, that means it definitely played through. It happened at some point. So, like, it's so weird to, like, think about, but it's like it's on a loop, and you're able to go to that point and change stuff. And when you're changing what already happened, that's when you're able to alter it. So the easiest way for me to explain that is at some point HG made the time machine, went through, did everything, and it happened the way we found out, like the way these characters and everything. And then the knowledge of that, when HG goes back, informs himself the second time he goes through, stuff starts changing, like in their timeline. It's hard to explain, but that's kind of how I feel it goes. And then I guess really the only other thing that I have to mention is while HG and Jane were having the conversation, the geologist place, they were discussing feelings and relationships and how there's not that spark, the electricity between one another. And then when they kiss at the end of the episode, there's literal sparks flying. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
I'm sorry, I'm so into these two. It's so cute.
I mean, yeah, okay, kiss, but keep the time machine out of it. You know what? The
Yeah,
time
that was a
machine.
little dramatic. It was.
Yeah,
I loved he had like an actual explanation for why it was sparking.
and she just shut him up and kissed him some more.
Yeah.
She was like, "Shut up, just
But
enough."
I was like, really? We're going to do the literal spark thing right now. Like that is happening after we had this conversation. Yep.
It was so cute.
That's happening.
It was cute.
Brian in chat, or Sally in chat says, do you think Brooke could be Chad's sister? They both have red hair.
It's possibly.
It's possible. Brian says maybe Brooke was the one Griffin was talking to on the phone.
I was thinking that.
Definitely
Yeah,
another possibility. I'm thinking maybe Griffin has something to do with this mysterious Sam. That's kind of, or Brooke is involved with Sam. I think Sam is
I
involved
think
with one of them.
I think Brooke and Griffin are part of an organization that knows all about HG and John, and Sam and Chad and their mother, or just Chad's mother. I don't know if it's Sam's mother too. They're victims in what
Yeah,
happens with the time travels and stuff. So
I definitely think they're victims. What I'm gonna go off of is that Griffin is working with Sam. Um, because, or wait, hold on. Griffin. Hold on. I just had it and then it escaped me. Um, Griffin. They mentioned something. Griffin mentioned something that someone else knows. We have to find out who it is. So, all right. So I think Griffin's working with Brooke. I think that's what it is. Griffin is working with
yeah,
Brooke, because that seems very logical to me. And then Sam and Chad and all this stuff, whatever's going on with that, are the people that they trying to figure out who they are. Because if Chad was the one that attacked HG and he's only finding it, and he has no knowledge to this. I mean, Sam doesn't have knowledge of it either, so I don't know.
no, I agree that Brooke and Griffin are working together. I think they are foot soldiers for a bigger organization or a
Yeah,
bigger group of people. So, like, there is a big boss man, kind of like Vanessa's kind of like the boss man for that bit. I think there's
Well,
like
I
a
can understand they want the time
counteractive.
machine. I'm trying to figure why the hell they want Jack. Other than he's Jack the Ripper and want to poke at his brain.
Yeah,
yep.
see how he ticks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like an CIA or FBI thing, kind of like a Men in Black kind of secret thing where they're like, okay, we found the craziest of the crazy from back in the day. Let's see how he ticks so we can track other crazies.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, because it's been
and
all made up because
and we know
they
that
want the money.
that Chad and his mother, their objective is to kill HG and Jack and prevent them from going back.
Hmm.
I think we're kind of under the agreement assumption that HG is going to go back at some point,
Yeah.
because he has to write his novels and all this stuff. And Jack the Ripper was never found, so he can either remain in our present and continue his havoc there, and totally make sense with that whole previous, of our story of where Jack the killings just stopped. Where did he go? Nobody knows.
Hmm.
Makes sense. Or they kill him, and that also explains what happens. That's
Yep.
more end game goal than anything. But I think we're under the assumption that HG is going to end up going back. So
I'm worried because like I feel like this is a season storyline with Jack the Ripper. I feel like it it can't really go past this. If it goes into a second season, I feel like it's gonna be dragged out way too long. And I don't want this to become like, oh, a new crazy every season kind of thing. Kind of like, sometimes you get a Monster of the Week kind of season on certain shows. I don't want it to turn into that, like a murder mystery time travel feel like, because we
well,
get
we
enough of that
we
with Doctor
also
Who too.
yeah, well, we also talked about last week how they could bring Sherlock Holmes into this, and that would be a next
Hmm.
season kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
think that would keep it kind of fresh and original too, because you could have Jack disappear, and we don't find him for the whole thing. Is next season would be them trying to figure out where he went, and they bring Sherlock Holmes in to try to figure that out, and that would be really cool. And then you kind of get
Right.
hints of him, and they don't find him till the end of the season, and they could drag it on, and to me, that wouldn't feel like a forced drag.
No.
That would be
See,
an
like
interesting drag.
I was more like, having him included the whole time,
Right,
not
right.
him disappear and then found. Like I felt like, if they were to keep him on board the whole time and try to just expand that storyline of like, trying to find him and the ultimatums all the time, like it just felt like it just feels like it would just be too much, and I would lose interest really fast. But yeah, doing what you said would be refreshing.
Yeah, there's ways I can go about it. So, on that note, do you guys have anything else for this episode?
Not really.
No. Next week episode is called Secrets Stolen. Dr. John Stevenson has met his match in a stunning and equally cunning doctor named Brooke, while HG and Jane travel back to the 1980s where they make a shocking discovery that could change Vanessa's life. So this is more than likely how they first met Vanessa. And the shocking discovery is probably something to do with their lineage. And we'll probably find out that... I don't know.
We found out that they're related somehow, so I mean,
What
maybe...
I want Vanessa to do is do a test on Jane and find out if she's also related to Jane. Because then we would know if Jane goes back in time with HG when he eventually ends up home. Because if he doesn't, and if Jane has like you're like, oh, then maybe not, but if Jane doesn't, like if HG and Jane have a kid, and they don't go back with HG, we're not gonna have Vanessa. Like we need HG to have relatives in the past.
Well, I mean, he can fall in love with Jane, and she can stay in the present time, and he can go back. I mean, there's nothing stopping him from getting with another lady.
That's true, but I think we're rooting for Jane at this point. So
because they're cute.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
I'm surprised they threw them together so quickly.
Yeah, there's that. Because of the way she built herself up, saying that she didn't trust anybody because of past relationships, and she's this kind of person, she's this kind of person. To throw them together so, she just threw all her walls down for HG right off. Like,
yeah, but I mean, there could be some issues along the way that would make her put that wall back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's easier to let your guard down on HG because there's so much information about HG. Like people know who HG is, what kind of person is. She knows he's the real deal, and he's like very.
She's fangirling.
She's
kind of.
Yeah, because that's kind of her life's work. She's in charge of the H.G. Wells part in the museum. She's done all this research on him. That's like it's part of her job. So she feels that she knows him already.
Well, not only that, but it's easier to trust somebody. I would assume it's easier to trust somebody from an older time too, because they have. I'm just saying, maybe not because we have John, but.
A little, okay.
But I'm saying,
just put it this way.
I'm saying
guys are still guys. They still act like guys.
A lot of the habits that exist today because of technology and the way media works and the way relationships can get presented in TVs and movies start planting and seeding ideas in people's head. And he's very innocent and naive in that regard, that it kind of makes it easier to trust him.
There's still things in relationships that don't change, no matter what the time and stuff. So but I honestly think that's the reason why she's put her wall down so quickly is because yes, she's read all this stuff and she thinks she knows him.
Right.
She knows what people write about him, but also it's that whole fangirling stage. If you're really into some star or whatever, and then you get the chance to be around them, you put your walls down a little. Mm-hmm. Unintentionally, you just fangirl and you don't think about it.
Yep. And there's also something that I would like to mention that I'm not sure if you guys were aware. I know I was, but I wasn't. I kind of put it on the back burner and I forgot about it until I saw it again at the start of the episode. This series is produced by Kevin Williamson, who's in charge of the Vampire Diaries. He was second to Julie Plec. So.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. I think you mentioned it. It wasn't on screen, like we weren't recording or anything, but right. I think you did mention it, but it also went over my head.
Yep. So he's kind of used to the Julie twists and stuff we are in Vampire Diaries, and I'm seeing a lot of that in the show. Like, he was very influenced by Julie Plec. You can tell.
It also explains the casting as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because you kind of see they're not brothers, but you get the same kind of knocking heads the way Damon and Stefan do in the Vampire Diaries.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. So, I think that is it. That is the end of our show. Nikki, where can the people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at LadyVenom24 or LadyYvenom24.
Awesome. Kim, where can the people find you?
Also find me on Twitter is at HUFFITY,
You can find me down below at Phenomedom, PHENOMEDOM. And you can find us all and more on Facebook, Gmail, G+, Twitter, MySpace, and anywhere in time at /ASO TV Podcast for some more podcasts for some of your favorite TV shows, games, and movies. Until next time.
Did we ever get that counter for the last episode?
Oh, I forgot about that. No.
No? Well,
No.
I think it's about time somebody does that for us.
It took me a second. I was like, great.